Hi class, how are you today? I hope you're well. Today is Sunday the 16th of October. I'm a little bit sleepy today and I'm still a little bit full of cold, so I hope that I make some sense to you. This week we looked at fold mountains and we were talking a little bit about how we use fold mountains. Why are they important to us? Why do people live there? I've made you another worksheet. It's here, if you can see this. I will be putting these on the website, and you also have them from class. I gave them to you in school this week. So really, there are 5 main ways in which we use fold mountains or fold mountain areas. The first one is farming. Farming. Now, if you take a mountain, imagine something like Kazbegi. You've got the mountains, they're really high, and often on the top you've got snow. This is a really bad place on the top of the mountain to grow crops. And a crop is really just like growing cabbages or corn, something like this, crops. C-R-O-P-S, crops. It just means growing some kind of a vegetables or grain. So if you wanted to grow crops on the top of a mountain, it would be really difficult because first of all, you've got to get all the way up there to plant things. There might not be soil there, and then you have to go up and water them and pick them, and maybe the temperature's not so good up there, maybe it's covered in snow most of the year. So the top of the mountains are really bad places for growing crops, for growing vegetables, for growing corn, or wheat, or maize, or whatever. However, they are very good, especially in the summertime if you have grass up there, for grazing animals, maybe sheep or goats. So the top of mountains are very, very poor for growing crops, but they're very, very good for grazing. So the lower part of the mountain has the opposite effect. So you don't want to graze your cows there because then you can't grow so many crops. So we use the high part of the mountain for grazing, and the lower part of the mountain we use for growing our crops, because the soil on mountains, remember, it comes from under the ground from the magma sedimentary rock, so it's generally very good quality. So if you look on your worksheet here, you will see farming, and to remind you, high slopes are bad for crop growing, but the high slopes are good for grazing, especially sheep. The low slopes are good for crop growing, for growing your vegetables. And one way that we can make the steep slopes, remember most mountains, especially fold mountains, are very, very steep. So you've got a big side of the mountain here, it's very steep. So one way to overcome this is by making terraces. And you'll probably see in China places that they make these terraces and they grow rice crops in them, like paddy fields up on the side of the mountain. So terraces are a good way of overcoming this problem of the steep slopes. I suppose it's one adaptation to the area. Fold mountains are very good for mining. And one of the reasons for this is because remember that the sedimentary rock, the magma, everything underneath is getting pushed up to create the fold mountains, and it's very high in minerals and irons and ores and different things like that. So fold mountains are a major source of metal ores. Lots of metal means that there's a lot of mining to be had. But the steep slopes make access very, very hard. So if you've got a slope like this, it's very hard to drive a car up here or a truck or to take a train, because once you've dug out all your minerals, all your ores, once you've mined the gold, the silver, whatever it is, you need to find a way to bring that back down the mountain. So one way to overcome this is to build zigzag paths. So zigzag, it's like the shape of the letter Z, like this, Z. So zigzag shape. It's the shape of the letter Z. And this can help you to transport things from the top of very steep mountains without, sliding straight down. Another major use of fold mountains is tourism. Tourism here. Fold mountains are very obviously mountainous, which means that they have lots of beautiful scenery. If you imagine somewhere like Kazbegi or the Alps or anywhere, the Himalayas, beautiful mountains, you've got snow, you've got high places, low places, valleys, rivers, lakes. So it's very beautiful, very picturesque. When it's something that's very picturesque, you're going to have a lot of people who want to come there for the quietness, for the relaxation, and for the scenery. In the winter, people want to come to the fold mountains for winter activities like skiing, snowboarding, ice climbing. And in the summer, you also have people who want to enjoy the greenery, the walking, mountain biking, different activities like this. And one of the things that you need to do, because it's very hard to get roads into the mountains, so one way to get around this is by making tunnels which go through the mountain, which get you there in a much straighter route and a faster route. So you make straight, fast roads through the mountains. If you've been to Batumi, you'll probably have been under the mountain, through the mountain, to get to Batumi. And the reason that this was built is because it was faster and quicker than going all the way around the big mountains, all the way over the top. It's not very convenient. Okay, so faster roads also mean better communication, and the better the roads are, the more tourists you can bring. So it's also really good. Another use of fold mountains is hydroelectric power. Hydroelectric power, which is here, right here. There. Fold mountains are perfect for hydroelectric power. We call it HEP for short, H-E-P, H-E-P, HEP, hydroelectric power. Fold mountains are really perfect for HEP because the steep-sided mountains, but they also have high lakes, which are good for storing water. So the more water you have, the steeper the mountains, you've got really dramatic waterfalls, you've got lakes as well, so lots of falling water, which means lots of electricity can be generated from the movement of this water as it falls. So generation of hydroelectric power. And the fifth use for fold mountains is forestry. Forestry. Let me see if I can show you here. Forestry, this one. Okay, forestry. The problem with mountains is it's very, very hard to grow trees that need to put their roots very deep. So you need fast growing trees that don't need such deep roots or such a deep place for their roots. And one kind of tree, one species which grows really well in this area is conifer tree. Conifers. Conifers grow very, very well on fold mountains. You might be able to think about Christmas trees. Christmas trees are like conifers. These kind of needles, trees with needles rather than leaves. Conifers are cheap to grow and they grow really quickly. And they can be used to make fuel, building materials, paper and furniture. So they're really, really good. Often in mountainous areas where there are fold mountains, you'll see people living in chalets where they've even built the accommodation from wood because it's very cheap, it grows quickly, you don't have to bring in lots of bricks from other places, other towns, so it's really a good supply. I hope I've made some sense today. I'm waffling a bit, but I hope you get the message. 5 important uses for fold mountain areas: tourism, forestry, HEP or hydroelectric power, mining and farming. Okay, so just remember those 5 things and a few of the things about them. Alright, see you in class. Bye bye.